Good morning, Rabbi Sai. We are learning in Daf Yud Aleph, Chulin Daf Yud Aleph, a very, very special Daf. And we're going to be speaking about something very, very fundamental regarding many halachas that we get to. I did to tell you into Shas. But we're starting, I want to just start with a little preview. We ended yesterday's Daf. The more I ask, how do we know Chazakah? How do we know we go after Chazakah? So the Gemara brought a raya from the fact that we rely on tzaras. We assume that tzaras did not change, and therefore you could say the house is tzaras. That's how the Gemara brought. Just to mention, the Tosfos asks, but we go also for chazaka for kula, not only for chumrah. Sisters, I'll tell you why. Because one of the halachas at tzaras is if you went to the house and you checked the size of the tzaras and you came and sees that it got smaller. So you say that the house is tar. Who said it got smaller? Maybe it's small. Maybe the minute you left the house, it became a little smaller. And now you're seeing it a week later, it's the same size. So you know, it stayed the same size for the beginning of the week. Why? Chazak. So we learned about the idea of chazak. Now the Gemara shifts into roiv. We have another halach. According to Rashi, the reason we're bringing it is only because we spoke about chazaka. So we say, okay, let's speak about roiv as well. Says the Gemara, we're starting the Yudalef and Mudalef in the second line. Let's learn the daf, which is going to come and give us the source for roiv, understanding what roiv means. And then at the end of the daf, there's something about chazaka and roiv.
Meaning clothing, not just
Yeah. Mino hamilsa, says the Gemara, the Amur Rabbanon Zil Basaru. How do I know? How do we know that we're going there after roiv? How do we know? So we know alone. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Because it says when you go to Beis Din and you have 2 against 1, who do you pass them like? Like the roiv. How do you know? Because you say you go after Rabbi. Says the Gemara, Rubo the Isa Kamon, roiv that's in front of us, can go and taste chanuyos. Says chanuyos is the classic case of the Gemara in Ksuvas that you found meat in the street. And the shaila is, where's it coming from? You say if you have 9 stores that sell kosher meat, and you have 1 store selling treif meat, you assume it's kosher. Why? Because you go based on roiv. The Sanhedrin that you go based on roiv, loy kami bailan. That's not a question. Kikami bailan rubo de leise kamon, which is not in front of us. Going kapton miktana. What is called a miktana? You have a child, and the shaila is the child a soris? In other words, regarding yibum. Sorry, in other words, can this? We're talking about, for example, a case that you have a Rashi brings, right? Yovam koton shabal yivom ktano. So you say they can stay with each other. Why? Because they're going to marry you. Yovam and Yavama. Who said maybe he's a saris who cannot have children, or she's an ailunis who cannot have children, and you male they cannot they're not allowed to be together. So you say you go based on the roiv. What's the roiv? Most people are not saris or ailunis, right? How do you know you go based on that roiv? And to explain this a little bit more, in our lush and our jargon today, in our language, this thing makes a lot of sense. Ruba diisa kamon, which means the roiv which is in front of us is a roiv which is determined. I have over here 10 stores selling meat. 9 sell kosher, 1 says pasul. That's called roiv. I have your base that have Sanhedrin. And in front of the Sanhedrin, what do I have? I have 3 people in Sanhedrin. 2 say is motor, 1 says osir. You go based on roiv. That's roiv d'isa. Come on. It's a roiv which is a clear roiv in front of us. Ruba de leisa, come on, is what we call today statistics. Probability. Now, probability. Meaning statistics, you say, statistics, what do you say? You're saying the majority of people are healthy. The majority of people are not treif. As we'll see. I mean, you're saying you're going based on majority. That didn't count. Did you count? How do you know that most people are healthy? It's called a ruba de leisa. Come on. The probability is that most people are healthy. How do I know that for a fact? Because that's the statistics. Now, if you actually go and count, well, you have 7 billion people in the world. Out of them, you have 5.2 billion, and that's no, we don't have that count. It's called a ruba de leisa. Come on. It's a more statistic. So the one says, Bishop ruba de isa. Come on, I know. Ruba de isa. Come on, I don't know. There is another English to point out. In the ruba de isa. Come on with Beis Din, we have over here 2 nekudas over here regarding roiv. First of all, we have idea that we go based on the roiv. Second thing is we have also something called bitul beroiv. What does bitul beroiv mean? If I have, which is very negiyah in Yechezkel Chulin, I have a pot of chont and I have a 1 drop of milk that spills into it. What do you say? Bottle beroiv. It's bottle. Bottle. What do you see? That you learn the same pasuk. How do you see that? So the way that Hartman bring up Chaim says when you have a basing, you have 2 against 1. 2 say guys is mutter, 1 says usher. So you go based on roiv. Very nice. If I have only 2 dayanim, I have to have 3 dayanim. Here 1 dayan says no. So how do I go based on where is my 3? The answer is bitul beroiv. The one who says no is canceled. The 2 that say yes, and that happens only ruba that you say come on. Only ruba which is in front of us that can be vatil, make the whole thing become whole, and that's why to a certain extent it's considered to be a better, greater roiv. Ruba delays to come on, which is more of a probability. So there, I do need. I have to have another right for it. It's not the same thing. And according to some, it's less. According to the Ran, Ruba delays to come on is not as strong as Ruba delays to come on. Wanted to say something?
No, I just want to understand the definition of each. Ruba, the lesson, and Ruba is.
Ruba delays says what is in front of you, meaning it's an actual reality. I have in front of me.
A challenge with the.
Yeah, that's a Ruba delays to come on.
The lessons where you don't.
It's statistics.
You don't have the actual.
Of the statistics in the world. So this is all right. That usually this is what happens. So what says, how do I know Ruba delays to come on? Says the Gemara, Omar Blazor, Asya Mireisha Shaloilo. The head of a carbon oil. How do you mean? You have to cut the oil to its pieces. It means big pieces. You have a certain amount of pieces and you cut the oil. You can't cut it to small pieces. So you cut the head on its own, the legs on its own, but not more pieces. Says the Gemara, but maybe in the head you have the brain. Maybe it's called krum shemoyach, which is it's like a thin layer of the brain. Maybe there's a hole in it. It's like a sack of the brain. And if there's a hole in it, it's a treifah. How do you know this carbon is kosher? Maybe the animal is treifah. I can't open it up. The Torah says you don't open the head up. Maybe it's treifah. Go based on which right? Come on. Which is statistics. Most animals are healthy. So you see, going based on roiv. Says the Gemara, Mimai, who said, Hilmo. The folly maybe he does open it up. Even though I say you can't cut the small pieces, that's only if you actually cut it to pieces. The life means he makes a hole in it. He doesn't cut it. Just like he penetrates open the brain, looks inside to make sure. So how do I know that I just trust the right? So I would say that's not a good right. But for the halacha of shviyas etzem pesach, what's the halacha of shviyas etzem pesach? When you eat the korban pesach, you're not allowed to break the bone. Don't make the bone. Meaning, if you can't break the bone, so maybe the brain is treifah. You're going based on the roiv, and roiv of the animals are not treifah. So again, the same question. Maybe you are opening it up. How you're not allowed to break the bone? You don't break the bone. You just put a coal on the bone, and it makes a little hole in it. Someone who cuts the sinews, someone who burns the bone. You don't have the answer to Pesach. So maybe that's what I'm doing. So Gemara says again, the second raya, not a great raya. Third raya. From Nachar by Yitzchak Omar, Asyo me'alyo. You learn from the alyo. Alyo is the tail. Basically, it's the fat in the end of the tail. Meaning there are animals that you put the alyo on the mizbech. Maybe the spine is broken. I don't open it up, put it on his back, but maybe I assume that the spine is not broken. Maybe he does open it up in the bottom, and he's able to look inside to look at the shedron. Says you have to put the alyo from the area of the eitzo, which means you're taking part of the spine with it. So you're not able to open it up because you put it on this back. Marco Shaklos, you have to go for the kidneys, which is a higher place. So you're not able to, not for the bottom, and then I'm gonna able to see the schedule. Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, the same question. You might do the pastaklo, bodiklo. Maybe he opens it up and checks it. Even shoot to me more. It says be told me when the holes. And me the chot chuligam full cut. How they the life means it makes a small opening. Lay some more. So again, another good rayo. Goes the going down another rayo. Shares bring that video. My asim egla rufo. What do you say egla rufo? The work one up. Ha rufo kishish leimo. What do? You take the egla rufo. What's the egla rufo story? They found a body. They don't know how he died. You take the egla rufo to nachleisa. You chop off the head and you say a ding l'shav kuzadamazeh. You take it shleima. You don't come and cut any piece of it. So it says, well, maybe the treifo. You go based on the roiv. So most animals are kosher. What do you care? What do you care if this animal is treif? It's not a korban. You're not eating it. So that's a problem. Says the Gemara. It says by eglarufo kaporo. And you kapor lamb. So you have kapara, so it has a bit of korbanos. Even though it's not a korban on the mizbeach, but you still treat it like a korban. It needs to be not trefa.
All of these are good proofs.
All of them were doing it. No proof. So the last one, the list one is the first one that we didn't have a tchil. The first three proofs were doichi. We said maybe you open it up and check it out. And here's the first one in Glarufa. We did not have a dispute. Not korban. You shech the paraduma, it's a full animal. You have to bring shalom. It's a treifel. Again, it's not a korban. Chatos korach one. We do call it a chatos. So paraduma is din of a chatos, like a korban. It has to be not treifel. That's another raya which we did not dispute. You don't see Mishnah. What is that Mishnah? It comes with Kippur, two serim. One you put the Hashem, and the other one you send La Zaza. So Siyam Mishnah, maybe it's Shefel. You take two serim, Shu Shneim Shavim. It will be equal. Maybe one of them is Shefel. Who? You say you go based on Raiv. And what's the Raiv? The roiv is that it's probably a kosher. Says the Gemara of who cares? Who said it? Who has a problem? Who said it cannot be treiful? Says the Gemara, ain't girl Hashem. That's a rule. The two serim have to be both the possibility to be a korban. Because you do a goyul, one of them will be la Hashem, one will be not. So they both have to be royal la Hashem, and then you give one of them la Zazel. This is a big Indian of Kabbalah. Ramban when he speaks about it, you're giving it, so to speak, to the Satan. To the Satan, give it to the Satan on Yom Kippur. Throwing the Seila Azazel is giving a korban to the Satan. Says the Ramban. Second for the Zohar says that's exactly that's what you have to do. You're giving it the bad stuff. You give it it. The advice has to be a good korban. Can't be treiful. So the advice is the Gemara. It's a Torah. But they bring that's it.
This man that we probably put it through an X-ray machine, an MRI.
Yeah.
Right? You put it through an MRI, an X-ray machine to make sure it's a shalom. Great.
Because maybe the serum you could check. When you threw it, it became into small. You couldn't check anything. There's nothing left. So that's another raya that we stay with. A person hits his father, his mother, makes a chabura. What do you have to do with this guy? You kill him. Come on, no, katla. Have to kill him. Who said it's the father? That's not the father. How do you know that's the father? Because the father and the mother were living together? Who said it's the father? They didn't have DNA tests those days. It said it could be that the mother messed around. But even so, I'm assuming it's the father because you go based on right. Maybe the father and the mother were in captivity and nobody else was there. So that's why you have that's why you're saying that we know the father is the father. Says the Gemara, so here, the way that we should explain it, the Toys goes on to it. Idea is, if one understands that they're in captivity, there's also a shomer. There's a guard. Doesn't let anybody get close to them. And Pachopas Larais is, could be she did it with the guard. Could be she was out with the guard. And Pachopas Larais, nobody's guarding a Reyes, so there's no guards. There's no guards. It could be she was with the guard. Could be she was raped. In other words, the Gemara says, I don't know. You never know for sure. There was no other Be'ilah. So what are you relying on? You're relying on, right? Says the Gemara, Rav Kahana, no, that's a problem. You're going to kill the guy because you ask her? It's not even an aid. What about if someone kills somebody else? What happens if someone kills? Someone's a murderer, you kill him. Maybe the guy he killed was treifa. He wasn't healthy. So you're not chayv with it. What? The treifa, you're not chayv misa. Because the guy would die anyway, so it's still be already missed. Maybe you say, okay, we check it. We check the guy who died. Hakam Minville, that's an evil. We know that always autopsy, we don't allow that in Yiddishkeit. It's not cover the mace. So you're gonna go and you're gonna check the guy died. The chicken wasn't a tray for you. One second. You're about to kill the murderer. So before you kill him, yeah, for Pikuach Nefesh, we will do an autopsy. Says the Gemara, maybe he went and he took a sword and he sticked it into the guy's neck. Maybe there was already a hole there. And then we can't check that. In other words, uncheckable. Okay, says, maybe the Torah is talking about only someone who drowned in the sea, so there's no holes. So to say that the Pasuk spoke only about that case, it's very hard to say. So that's another right. So you have two Eidim testifying that somebody is Chayim Misa, you killed the Eidim. Maybe the guy they testified against him is a treifa. You go based on the roof and assume he's not a treifa. Maybe you go ahead and you check the person that person they testified on him. Berebi says over here, Berebi means every time it's Adam Chashub, we don't know who it is. Berebi. We know what's in the Eidim Zayimim. When do you kill Eidim Zayimim? If their testimony wasn't effective. If they actually kill the person, you don't kill the Eidim Zayimim. You only kill the Eidim Zayimim kasher zomam and look kasher asa. So the guy's alive, you can't check it. So you see it, but right? Regular shchita. Go shecht and eat. Maybe when he's shechting, he's making the animal has a hole, and he's cutting the animal in a place of a hole. Go be and assume the animal is kosher. I said this answer to Rav Kahana. Some say Rav Kahana said Shimi. I'll tell you the answer. Maybe really we don't rely on Roiv if I have another option. But in case of shchita of an animal, what are you going to do? You never can eat any animals ever. Because every animal, maybe it's a treifo. So you say maybe the hole is already there. So I can have. In other words, if I have no choice, that's what I do. If you don't see the svaro, I'll tell you, I'll be all right to this. The Rameir is always choshish lemut. We started the sugyo, the case of Saris and Islanders. Rameir says we don't let them to be together because maybe he is a Saris Islanders. You're choshish lemut. You're choshish for a minority. You want to tell me that they never ate meat? So Rameir never ate meat. Maybe Rameir never ate meat. Every meat is choshish. Maybe it's shayfam. By the way, I'm showing mass. How can it be? It says that the pasuk favors you can eat bosa taif. Okay, maybe it's on mitzvah. So what have you based on the aleph? Pesach ve'kodshi Michael and Meima. 1 second. Remember, it doesn't hold you korban Pesach. You have a mitzvah korban Pesach. So, maybe it's vegan. You have to. No, we aren't. Michael, they all agree. Says, yeah, you're right. I don't never know. Maybe this korban Pesach is treif, but I have no other choice. So I'm going to check whatever I can check. If I can't, there's nothing I can do. So therefore, there's no raya for us from the bus from regular shchito to have no other choice. Now look at Rashi over here. Rashi says, so Rashi says the Maisa. So if I have no choice, so what am I going to do? So says if you look at the Rashi on the right side, we'll start from the narrow lines. So Elavadai says Rashi a big chiddush. Haloko lemoishi misinu. Ha tasavchina rubo. Meaning, it could you were trying to bring a ride to go based on right, and you say maybe it's only a case of Efsher. How do you know a case of loy? How do you know a case of loy Efsher? A case of Efsher, maybe you do so. How do you know that? Well, if you look at the Efsher. Inami, achri rabim la'ato is masha ben rubadi sekabon ben rubadi sekabon. Remember the first part the Gemara brought in the beginning of the sugya. So maybe that's only rubadi sekabon. Maybe not. Should the Baishtar be? The Aham says Rashi Samchinim v'lo batkinin kol yudchet trefus. We don't go check everything in the animal. You check the animal, you check everything. You check she's not a trefa. No, you assume she's okay. There's one exception. V'nekuva sareyo, the whole of the lung. We're going to see later in the Chulin. You check the lungs. Should the shchiach beru sobatkina? Here you have it's shchiach. Here can be strami if it's shareh v'lo badak v'sachlos sochina aha. He didn't check. Will be okay. Don't tell all the sheikh in this thing because you want them to check. In other words, Rashi says we are relying on roif. Then the Gemara says maybe all the rice that I brought because I have lo efsher. So I don't know what to do. Maybe I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be seimech roif. So says Rashi, you're right. The way I know is seimech roif, or it's part of the pasuk of Chir Rabim Lahatus. It comes out. So it comes out over here that I have so the Gemara ends. This is really sugya that Yudalef is the source Haroif. And here we have an interesting thing. So love this, but it's really goes into Machshava too. We learned Chazaka in the end of yesterday's daf, and we learned Roiv in this daf. Are they the same? Are they equal? No. What's the cloud? Very good. Ruba Chazaka Ruba. Why is that so? Says the Chemda Shleimer. This goes with the Chagiwa. What is Chazaka? Chazaka tells me something probably did not change. Right? I have a animal that everything looks good. I checked everything is good. I'm assuming it didn't change. Learn that from the Tzaras. It's a Chazaka. I go to mikvah, I check the mikvah is good. I go to the mikvah. Maybe this minute didn't change. Chazaka probably did not change. Is Chazaka a biru? That's the Lashon of the Achronim. At the Lam the Shaloshin. Is it birur or hanhaga? Meaning, is chazaka, I know this is what it is, or it's a hanhaga. That's I'm assuming nothing changed, but I'm not gonna say that I know what happened. Comes the Chem Neshama, it says chazaka is a hanhaga. I don't know. I'm continuing the way it is. Roiv is a birur. Roiv is something I know. Torah told you, if I don't know what's it in. I have a roiv and a mute. I go based on the roiv. It tells me this is what it is. Unless I know otherwise. I know it's roiv. That's what the roiv is a beer. That's a roiv is greater than chazaka. And this really goes back to machshavin. You know what's the chazaka in our world? Every single day, will the world continue to exist today? Chazaka that it will. Can it change? Yes, absolutely. Because both can always change it. That's our emunah. We have a chazaka. That's the Gemara of the Zohar. The Zohar says, they have a concept called oilom kimin haganoyim. We still, the world continues to exist. But it's not really that it's you have a chazaka. It's not that I know. It's a biru. Of course, the world is there. The world continues. No. As the Shachaim and the Balatanya both right, every single moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is pumping life into the world. There's no chazaka. There's no thing as chazaka. In 1 second, everything can change. Then the big imun and bitachon that we have. President certain matzah. It's a tzara. Down to Hashem, it can change. Why? Because chazaka is not a biru. Biru means it's for sure going to happen. No, it's I don't know more better. But if anything else could come in, it's a change. Mashayk and Roiv is that we go based on Roiv. Have to go, that it's a beer. Who tells us based on Roiv. That's why Am Yisrael or tzaddikim. Go based on the Rav. Always go based on the Rav. It's a biru that everybody's a tzaddik. So Mele in the Chshava too, the definition of chazaka makes a lot of sense, and it's a less than a Rav. Chazaka is a anaga, and Rav is a biru, and this is beginning over here. Chazaka and Rav. I said there's the Ktei Sachosha wrote a sefer called Shev Shmeitzer, 7 shmuas. And he has a Shmeitzer with Chazaka, and I believe in Rav 2 on its own, the Shayesha. It's all based on these sugyas. Everything that has to do with Chazaka and Rav and Chazaka and all these things, all full. That's the big union that we just learned now. Avaisai, you should have a wonderful day. We should continue from here tomorrow.
Thank you.